What's up, everybody? Back in the saddle for another episode of Between Years. I'm Schuyler Callihan. That is Christopher Hall. Today is how West Virginia beats Albany. And yes, it shouldn't be a very long episode because it shouldn't take all that much to beat the Great Danes, with all due respect. But this game, as always, is about WVU. Every time you play these FCS opponents, it's about honing in on your craft, fixing your issues. You're not really overly concerned with the other team, but you got to have respect for them. This is a team that a year ago they went to the FCS semifinals. They got spanked 59-0 in that game, but they made it there. They're a program that's kind of coming up in the FCS ranks. They're feeling pretty good about themselves. They won last week. They feel good coming into this one, but they lost a lot of talent from last year's group. So we'll see what exactly Albany brings to the table. But in terms of just West Virginia here, because this is, like I said, basically just about the Mountaineers, couple of things, Chris, that you think they need to do, not to just beat Albany, but make you feel good, make you feel fat and sassy about going into that backyard brawl next week.
An efficient offense, running the ball, passing the ball, catching the ball, no drops, no hesitation in the backfield, passes that are on target. Like they're not all going to be winners, but you need the majority of your passes to be on target because you expect your receivers to be open. Garrett's got to be a little bit earlier on his timing with the passes. And of course, some of that's just filling out the new receivers, but he should be there with Cole Taylor. Felt like he was late on some of his passes against Penn State. So you got to trust that he's going to be there. I don't think necessarily that there isn't trust there, but just so much waiting for it to break other than knowing it's going to be there. That's something that he still
Yep.
was learning last year. And it looks like it's coming into this season, but game one, not going to make too much out of it until there's a big sample size. And this will be a good one to kind of test that. Like, you should have faith that your guys are going to be there. Don't leave them exposed over the middle to get jacked up by the safety. Like, get the ball out, get the ball there, and be on target. So really offensively, just efficiency. Get these guys upfield in the running game. You would hope the offensive line would win the line of scrimmage. Shouldn't be a problem. But even if there isn't a hole where they linebacker fills the gap, you want to see the running back just square their shoulders up and get downfield, break some tackles and make some noise. Like it doesn't have to be a jump cut. Just run through the tackle. CJ Donaldson should be able to do that against Albany. So both these guys should have over 100 yards. Should see some Jalen Anderson in the mix. Maybe see some freshmen in the mix. Like, let's get some of these other guys some reps because it is a long season. We've seen injuries take a toll on everybody around the country, and it's happened to West Virginia the last few seasons. Like other guys need some playing time so that they're ready later in the season in case something happens. So yeah, offense has to be efficient across the board. Like there is no excuses coming in this week for them not to be efficient. They shouldn't be tight. They shouldn't be pressing. Like run your offense, dictate the flow of the game, and hopefully you put up another 50 burger against an FCS opponent.
Mine kind of goes hand in hand with yours, and that's just start fast. I mean, Neil talked about how slow they were in their scrimmages on offense, starting fast and or not starting fast, I should say, and that was kind of one of their concerns about the offense going into it. And obviously, started slow Saturday against Penn State and never really got going. So I think just getting that confidence going early, you need to score on the first drive. Doesn't have to be a touchdown. You'd love for it to be a touchdown, but just go down the field, score fairly effortlessly, do it again, and all of a sudden you're up 3 scores early in the game. And like you said, you can start getting to that point where if it starts to get out of hand, you can start bringing in some other guys that necessarily won't play in a Big 12 game or that you're going to count on in the upcoming games. But it's all about starting fast. And I think not only just does it give you the opportunity to take a look at some other guys, but it builds that confidence and that you're not it eases the intensity or the pressure that they may be feeling going into this game if there is any. But just trying to get past that Penn State game, get that sour taste out of your mouth and say, look, we can complete these passes. We can run the ball. We can run this certain play against this certain look. We don't have to press. We can just do our thing. And if we just take care of business, everything else will follow. So that's the main thing for me. Start fast. Defensively, Don't really know what to expect out of Albany. They've got a new quarterback. They've got a stud receiver that runs really, really fast, Seven McGee, a running back that can run the ball fairly well. CAA, preseason pick. So they've got some guys. Offensively, though, like you said, they should be able to win the trenches against their undersized offensive line. And defensively, I think that's the where you want to see the most growth is in that front seven. The linebackers, the defensive line, get some pressure. They generated absolutely zero pressure against Drew Aller last week. Penn State did a really good job of blocking it up. They had a lot of max protection, but you got to start finding ways, even if it's not by your conventional blitz. You've got to find ways to bring some safeties down, maybe some corners. Heck, even send Rodney Gallagher on a nickel blitz if you want to. I mean, there's so many different ways. This is your week to be creative in that.
Yeah, really defensively, you just want to see discipline, good eye discipline, no missed assignments, stay in your lane, stay in your spot, go where you're supposed to do, um, and everything should work out. You know, as far as blitzing concerned, don't telegraph it. They it seemed like they telegraphed every blitz they dialed up. I mean, Penn State was right in the spot where they were going every single time. Like
Yeah.
they would blitz three or four guys, and it didn't matter. Like they just picked it up with ease. So yeah, you're gonna have to win some one-on-one battles up front as well. Talked about it yesterday. Like Penn State offensive line's really good. A lot of NFL talent up there. Um, but if you want to be considered NFL talent on the other side, you got to start winning some of those matchups. We want to see a lot of action from Sean Martin, Eddie V. These guys were talked about a lot in the preseason. Want to see some of that going into this one, but for the most part, just stay disciplined. Do not try to cheat. Do not try to go make a play. Just do what you're supposed to do. This is really a good game. Like, not worried about the sack total as much, but as long as you don't have missed assignments, you should be okay. Like, that's really where this cohesiveness needs to start coming together. Do what you're coached, do what you're supposed to do as far as the play call, and everything will be okay. And that's really where this neat group needs to start because they didn't do any of that against Penn State. So they've really got to fix that first. Like get back to the fundamentals defensively. It's not like they don't know that they do know. So I just want to see it play on the field.
So looking for the pit game ahead to the pit game just a little bit here, what are some of the things that you want to see makes you feel better about going into that game against Pitt in the backyard brawl? Because I think yes, you want to accomplish some things, you want to get some things shored up, but I think there's also some things that you really want to find out. To me, it's defensively, like, what all can you do? I mean, what guys can you put on the field together? What personnels can you actually roll with in certain situations, whether it's the red zone, short yardage, third and long, what type of situations can you present to the opposing offense? I don't know that they really found out a whole lot in week one against Penn State because it looked like I don't really know. I haven't went back and did a deep dive on the game, but it felt like it was a pretty basic game plan for the most part defensively. They were just trying to keep things in front of them, but they didn't set a whole lot of pressure. I think this week that's something you need to figure out. Like, is there ways that you can simulate pressures that aren't the typical things that you just said, like where they would be able to pick it up? Can you bring six guys? Can you bring seven? How where and who are they coming from? So that's a thing for me. I want to look out for because they've got to be able to figure that out going into the backyard brawl.
Yep, for me, it just goes back to this. It's just you have to get a base, and as you can say, the same thing offensively. You got to find your success in your base and be able to build off that.
Yep.
There's always coaches have different philosophies when it comes to these games or whatever game. They don't want to show too much. But for me, if you show a bunch, then they have a bunch to prepare for, right? Like yeah, you can throw some things they haven't seen, but you got to have success off your base and be able to evolve after that. And that was a big conversation that they evolved from their base last year, but they didn't even have success off their base against Penn State. And we crediting Penn State defense without a doubt. Tom Allen did a great job bringing that group together, especially in the secondary. But you got to have some success. And it starts with Garrett Green making the right decisions, making the right timing on the throws. And that's really what you want to see on the defensive side as well when it comes to the timing of the blitz. and these guys have got to stay disciplined when they're blitzing and not give it away. So I don't know that they could have really came out against Penn State and done anything exotic or do something to really trip them up because there's so many new pieces that are playing together. You just want to see them win their matchups, I think, defensively in the base, see what these guys can do when they're out there. What can Ty French do? You know, this should be a game where he goes out and balls out. This should be a game Tyron Bradley balls out. This should be a game Sean Martin balls out. Like these guys have to start making plays when Trey Lathan goes on a blitz. He should win that blitz. Like these are the guys that you're expecting to make plays. They need to make it against Albany, and you need the safeties to keep the lid on that offense. Like, don't get out of position. Don't let anything pass you. AB. So that's really where you're looking defensively, win your matchups while you're in the base, then you can build off that. Like what they do when they do understand their assignment and they do it correctly, where can they build from there? So defensively, again, it's just going to take a month or so to really find out what this defense is made of, and you got to start winning up front. And that, again, they're probably beating us to death. This is the best team. That's the best team you're going to see all year. Some
Yes.
people equate maybe Oklahoma State. I'm not so sure you can put Oklahoma State at the same
No.
level as Penn State. Oklahoma, and again, that's Gundy's done a great job at Oklahoma State. Hopefully, they continue to win their non-conference games because it's been a real letdown over the last few years. But Kansas is going to roll into town. We know how they are with Jane Daniels. Like LR just ran by you. Now they're probably not going to do as much man coverage against Kansas. I mean, that's probably expected, and they'll probably have a spy. Hopefully, that's Josiah Trotter. But what are you going to do defensively? Where's your guys at? Where's your studs at? They have to win these one-on-one matchups all day long. Like, do they just go play man and say everybody, our best 11 is better than your best 11? Hopefully they can do that, but they're going to have to mix some things up to see what these guys are capable of doing, whether it's a zone blitz, just playing zone, how they handle the assignments. I think that's why it goes back to no MAs on defense. You should not be. You should be disciplined. You should not have your eyes on the backfield trying to cheat. You shouldn't have to feel like you need to make a play to turn it around. Again, plays will come to you if you're following the plays that are called on the field. If you respect your assignment, then good things will happen defensively.
The two things I want to point out on offense. Number one, we talked about it yesterday. Getting back to your identity, running the football, running it with chunk plays, getting Jaheim White out in the open space, having him get in the open field where you can make some guys miss. CJ getting downhill in a hurry. Like you have got to get back to what got you so much, or what led you to so much success a year ago in running the football. If you're still trying to figure that out or figure out how to get back to that going into the backyard brawl, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble. That's not going to be a good situation or a comfortable feeling going into that game next week. Secondly, let's get a little bit of Nico Marchiol action, huh? Let's get him into the game. I know he got in towards the end of Penn State, but let's get him some serious run, whether it's a half, a full quarter, a quarter and a half, something like that. That which goes all the way back to my first point in starting fast, because if you're able to do that, you can get Nico some serious reps. You can see what he looks like in an actual game setting, not against your own defense, and you can feel a little bit better if something were to happen to Garrett Green. We saw it happen a couple times last year. He had to come out of the game where he missed an entire game or almost a full game. You didn't have that luxury last year of Nico being in a situation where he could operate at full capacity. This year, seems like they do. They can do that with him. What's it look like, though? This is the first step. That's going to be important, getting Nico Marchiol out in the game early.
Yeah, let's get it all the way down to Jackson Christ. How about that? The
Yeah,
walk on.
goodness gracious. Yeah,
let's get
we may be
let's get
talking about
Jackson.
a hundo burger at this point.
Let's get Jackson Chris some love. The walk on.
Goodness gracious.
Let's get
Scotty
that going.
Keene in there as well.
Yeah, let's get some walk on some
Goodness.
love. Why not?
Hey, I mean, if I mean, heck, Khalil Wilkins, get him some opportunities in this one, or
Look,
Ryder Burton.
Jackson Chris has been doing his time. He deserves some
Yeah,
love.
yeah,
Let's get him in the game.
yeah.
Period.
So
I never want to see Ryder Burton too, but I want Jackson Chris in the game. So in the Jackson Chris fan club, you gotta love walk-on quarterbacks that are still sticking around. Love it.
the Chris family, if you're out there watching this, giving Chris all the love out here, giving Jackson some love. But yeah, I mean, heck, get all the walk on some action. Look what happened for Hudson Clement last year. Is there somebody that emerges in this game that is a walk-on, has a big game, and is like, "Yeah, you know what? Maybe he's worth giving a
Yeah,
scholarship
this
to."
is
I don't
this
know
is
if
the game where you get guys that, hey,
yeah,
maybe they deserve some shot against Kansas, Oklahoma State, Arizona, whoever.
exactly.
They can start getting some playing
This is
time.
a
So yeah,
building depth game.
Garrett Green needs to do his job along with the running backs and the offense. Get the right decision making. Like you said, start fast. Like if you go 3-and-out against Albany, it's bad sign for the offense. I don't want to overreact, but come on, man. Like this is not good. Like this
Yeah.
offense is supposed to be humming. And if they struggle, you're probably going to get a lot of "Where's Nico? Where's Nico?" Because
Well, let's not
Green
start
should be
this. Oh my
taking
goodness.
these steps forward and making these plays. Again, that was Penn State, but let's see what you can do against Albany because reality is that was a very bad game.
Yeah.
And you haven't shown any growth. It's only one game. Show some growth this week and then see it against Pitt, and then we can kind of all take a deep breath and say, okay, maybe we have a shot at the Big 12 championship. This is a gauntlet coming up to start off the Big 12. They gave Utah a pretty easy pass, I will say, but this is going to be a tough, tough schedule to start the Big 12. So you have got to start showing that you're the mature offense that you think you are. Go out there, first 4 out of 5 drives better be a touchdown, right? You can squeeze a field goal out of that. That's acceptable, but it better be 28 plus points in the first half with ease. It
Yeah.
shouldn't even be a question.
Week 1 overreactions are a real thing, by the way. And
Yes,
and
it is.
I get that there's a very, there's a good chance that maybe West Virginia just doesn't figure it out. They have some issues this year, and it's a disappointing year. It's a down year. That's very possible. Like, I get that. However, you're never as good or never as bad as your first game, or as you think you are in that first game. If West Virginia would have went out and did that to Penn State and they had won 34-12, everyone would be sitting here saying, "Oh my gosh, West Virginia's going to run the freaking table. They're going to go to the Big 12 championship. They're going to go to the college football playoff and make some noise there." It was never going to happen that way, no matter what they look like. You're never as good. You're never as bad as you think you are, especially in that first game. I'm willing to bet that that team that we saw on Saturday against Penn State is not going to be what we see in the next 11 plus games. It's just not going to happen. It was a bad day, and they picked a bad day to have a bad day against a really damn good team.
Pretty much. Yep. Just a bad day at the office. Pretty much what said day out. I said day after. Just a bad day at the office. Just
Yeah,
burn it, bury it, forget about it, move on.
there you go. So they found a way to bounce back last
Hopefully, we're
year.
not saying that this Sunday.
Oh boy, if it's a bad day at the office on Saturday, it's
It'll
going
be
to be a
rough.
long, long week.
Jackson, Chris. Jackson, Chris.
There
That's
you
what I'll be
go.
chanting. Let's go. Bring out Jackson. Could be the savior. You never know.
You might be. You might be. So that's going to do it for us here today on this episode of Between the Ears. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube at West Virginia on SI. Give us a follow at SI_WVU on X. And we will be back tomorrow, Eugene and I, to break down West Virginia and Albany. We'll talk some other things around the program, along with making our predictions at the tail end of the show. So be sure to check back with us tomorrow for West Virginia Albany preview on the Walkthrough Game Day Show. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.